What's up, everybody? This is Coach Ben Z. Today I'm going to talk about the science of glute training, and just going to go over a quick introduction, a quick talk about the muscles, and then a little primer on activation. So about me, you can find me on Instagram at Coach BZ, and I have a lot of videos there for glute training. A lot of it's more specific to sports performance and nutrition. If you want to get a really in-depth look on glute training, you can check out my mentor, Brett Contreras. He pretty much wrote the book on glute training, and a lot of my information is extrapolated from his, just the practical takeaways that I got from learning from him. So anyway, let's start with the gluteal muscles. So the gluteal muscles themselves, there are three primary glute muscles when we talk about glute training: gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, and then the gluteus minimus. Okay, glute max, med, and min. So of these three muscles, they all have specific functions. They kind of overlap, but I want to just go over them a little bit on their own. Okay, so gluteus maximus is kind of like the big glute muscle. You think of the butt cheek, the big part of the glute. Okay, so that is primarily responsible for hip extension, as well as many of the other functions of the hip. All right, but primarily is a prime mover for hip extension movement. Okay, then we have the gluteus medius, which sits right to the side, and the gluteus minimus, which sits underneath that. Those muscles are more responsible for abduction, right? So abduction is your leg out to the side. So let me go over some of these movements, and then we'll talk a little bit about internal rotation as well. So hip extension is basically when you do this movement here. Okay, so when the hip goes back like so, you can see I'm using my glute max to create that hip extension. Okay, hip abduction or abduction is basically when I'm out to the side like this. All right, so that's abduction, and also you can do it in a transverse plane. So hip abduction in a transverse plane. Okay, hip external rotation is when you take your foot, you move it out to the side like so, or when you do that motion. Okay, so that's all from the hip. Okay, don't worry too much about what I'm doing below the hip. It's all this motion here. Okay, so I can take my foot out, or I can move my leg out. Okay, and then we have hip internal rotation. Okay, so internal rotation is more for sports performance and more for athletic movements. I would say when you're training athletes, hip internal rotation becomes a lot more important. All right, for aesthetics, to get a bigger butt, to make it look better, you want to focus more on exercises up here. Okay, hip internal rotation is basically when you turn the foot in, like so, or when we turn the whole hip in, or when we generate force, like we're doing a med ball chest pass, right, or we're doing an uppercut, throwing a punch. Those are all hip internal rotation movements. Okay, very important for sports performance, a little less important for aesthetics and those types of things. So with that, let's go on to activation. So activation is just doing a little quick intro on activation. We're going to get to the exercises in other videos. Activation is basically learning how to recruit the gluteal muscles to turn them on, figuratively. Okay, so not literally turning them on. They should always be on, right? But learning how to recruit the specific muscles needed for the specific movement a little better, increasing the recruitment of motor units. So the muscles that are recruited, when you can increase recruitment, the muscles will respond better to strength training. Okay, so when you can turn them on, figuratively, they will respond better. Okay, your time in the gym will be better spent, and exercises like kettlebell swings, like squats, like lunges, they will use the correct muscles when you activate them. All right, so we'll get to activation in a subsequent video, but activation is basically using lighter exercises to work the muscle, and then using compound exercises or direct targeting exercises for when you're doing your actual strength training. Okay, so just for example, an activation would be like putting mini bands around the knees and doing like a lateral shuffle walk, like so. That would be a sample. Imagine if I had a mini band here, and I'm moving like so. That would be an example of an activation. Okay, so anyway, that's just a quick introduction on the science of glute training, and yeah, so we'll have more videos on the specific exercises and other topics.
omnibeats.com